What's up guys, it's your favorite Kiwi coach, and give me 6 months of your time and I'll give you the best golf swing of your life. So welcome back to the channel. In this particular video, we're going to be talking about the concept of, should I be flattening the club shaft in transition or shallowing, as you guys probably heard it, or should I just be lowering the club shaft in transition? So if you're interested in that, well, let's go do this thing. But before we get into the video, I want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, and that is KiwiGolf Japan. If you're too busy or you just can't make it out to our locations for lessons, KiwiGolf Japan is the membership site for you. With over 175 plus videos of golf instruction, we have everything on the membership site you could possibly want. So check out the link down below, and now let's get into this video. So before I get into the main point of this video, let me just explain first off the motivation of this video, and then also let me explain some of the terminology of this video, because some of you guys at home might be thinking, okay, I don't even know what flattening is, I really don't even know what lowering is, so let's get into that first. So in terms of the motivation for this video, I've had a lot of clients of recent who came to me under this impression that they should be flattening the club shaft or shallowing the club shaft pretty much as they possibly can. Now, we're going to get to the reasons why I think that this might be good or bad later, but really that's the motivation. I've had so many questions about it, might as well make a video to you guys and then be able to explain it. The next point is, let's start getting into some of the terminology, because I'm sure some of you still have no clue what I'm talking about. So let's get to the terminology. So when it comes to terminology in this video, we're going to be talking about primarily 3 types of terminologies. So the first terminology I want to talk about is going to be the flattening of the club shaft, or you might have heard it as shallowing of the club shaft. So in my opinion, the terminology of flattening just simply means that the club shaft is moving in this fashion right here. So it's going from more of a vertical position to a position like this, right, which would be more of a horizontal position. To me, that's actually called flattening, not necessarily shallowing, but this is the first terminology. The second terminology is going to be lowering. Right, so for me, lowering means you take the relationship of the club head and the grip and you lower that, right? So there's not really any twisting involved. So that would be the second terminology. Then the third terminology I'm sure most of you guys have probably heard of, and that would be steepening of the club shaft, which would be the opposite of flattening. It would be steepening the club shaft, which is moving the club shaft in that direction as opposed to that direction. All right, now that you got the basic terminology, let's start getting into some of the points of this video. So to get straight to the point, I'm not a huge fan of players actually flattening the club shaft in transition. And primarily, I actually like to teach people to be lowering the club shaft. So if we want to get straight to the point on really what my opinion is between the two, well, that's my opinion, right? I'd much rather see people actually start to lower the club shaft as opposed to flattening. So now the reason becomes why, as well, is there ever a time where flattening might be a case? So let's start getting into those. The reason why I'm not a big fan of flattening the club shaft really comes down to 2 main reasons. So the first main reason is, as you start to flatten this club shaft, look what happens to the face angle. It's pointing more and more up towards the sky. And depending on when you're flattening the club shaft, at which point of the downswing, well, that might really open up the face angle, right? As you can see, the face angle is pointed back at the camera to you guys. The golf ball's here, the target's over there. Well, there's quite a bit of closing of the face angle or the toe that needs to occur so I can actually hit the golf ball, right? So that would be one of the big main reasons why I'm not a huge fan of flattening the club shaft. Now, I'm sure some of you guys out there are thinking, well, you could flatten and flex your wrist, right, Kiwi Coach? Don't worry, I'm going to get to that point a little bit later on. For now, that's the first main reason why, opening the face angle. So the second reason I don't want to see the club shaft flattening on the downswing at any point is because the club head is going to start to move more and more and more behind the hands. And depending on when you're doing it as well as how much you're doing it, most likely you're going to find that right around position 6, the club head's going to be so far behind the hands that it's going to have a large range of motion to travel to be able to line up to the center of the golf ball. So it's very difficult to time, right? The further the club head is away from the hands on either direction, and the closer you are to the golf ball, the more difficult it is to align this sweet spot to the golf ball. So hence, I'm not a huge fan of flattening the club shaft anywhere throughout the downswing, because I find for most people, that's going to end up getting you too far underneath the plane, and then from there, you're going to struggle to hit the sweet spot. So then the question you're probably thinking to yourself now is, well, Kiwi Coach, is there ever a time where flattening might be okay? I know you personally don't really like it, but is it really that bad? Is there maybe any time ever that you should be able to do it? Well, here are maybe some key points that you should think about if you're going to flatten the club shaft or not. So the first place I always like to look for is the top of swing position. So if I'm going to be across the line at the top of the swing, If I don't flatten the club shaft, look what happens here. Club head's gonna swing way out. I'm probably gonna either miss the golf ball or swipe across the golf ball a large amount. Difficult to obviously contact the ball, control the starting line, control the curvature. So if you're crossed at the line at the top of swing, then yes, you would have to, in my opinion, to hit a good shot consistently, flatten the club shaft, stop that flattening, then lower the club shaft, and then move it out towards the golf ball. So in that case, would there be a time for you to actually flatten the club shaft? In that case, yes, I would argue you would. However, do you have to if you had a better top of swing position? Well, no, right? So this is why we have our checkpoint parameters, and I do talk about having a better top of swing position. But if the question is there any time? I do think there are some times where realistically you should flatten the club shaft, but I think that you can still avoid those if you start to get into the correct checkpoint parameters that we talk about. So what I want to talk about now is there's a section in the video where I talked about how flattening the club shaft will open the face angle. As well, there's an argument to this to where you could actually twist the shaft this way and you would close the face angle. So I want to spend some time talking about why I'm still not a fan of flattening the club shaft and then just flexing your wrist or twisting the club shaft this way and then squaring the face angle. One of the biggest things that I worry about for my particular players is I don't like to see a lot of rotation on this axis of the shaft, right? This would be toe closure or toe opening, basically. I don't like to see a lot of this. Now, the main reason why is we like to teach a face angle that closes relative to the arc of the swing. So if I have proper sequence of rotation and good wrist conditions, the face angle will be closing on the arc of the swing, and it won't be closing independently of the arc of the swing, which would be more so a release like that. And again, the main reason why we like to see that is we're a big believer that 75 to 80% of the initial direction of the golf ball is where the face angle is pointed. So why would we want to have a lot of toe closure close to impact, right? We want to avoid that. We want it to be happening earlier. As well, we want to just minimize it in general. And we can minimize it in general by actually lowering the club shaft and then steepening the club shaft, which we'll talk about later. But to argue your point, yes, if I flatten the club shaft and I twist the club shaft like this, the face angle would be a lot more square. The issue is you are still twisting the club shaft on this axis, which has been proven to increase the toe closure, which will be one of the most inconsistent ways, in my opinion, to hit the golf ball. So in this point of the video, you probably have a great understanding of where I stand when it comes to flattening the club shaft or not. However, you don't have a good idea of exactly kind of what I would prefer to do instead. So this is the time of the video where I'm going to actually be talking about what lowering of the club shaft is, as well as if you can match up the lowering of the club shaft with a good top of swing position and then a good steepening motion, you can actually square the face relative to the plane of the swing, and you're going to have a really low rate of closure. So let's get into that discussion. All right, that's it for you guys on YouTube. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Before you guys click off this video, let me give you a quick wrap up, a quick summary of what we discussed. So first and foremost, when it comes to the terminology, we have flattening of the club shaft or shallowing that you guys have probably heard, steepening of the club shaft, and then we have lowering of the club shaft, which again is my particular preference. Main point of the video is I don't want to see you guys flattening the club shaft. I'd much rather see you guys lowering the club shaft in transition. Main reason why, more and more you flatten, the more and more the face angle opens. As well, the more and more the club head moves behind the hands. We start to get into that large range of motion variable, very difficult to hit the golf ball, so that's really kind of the main point I want you guys to get. Now, if you guys are struggling with this with your own golf swings and you try to fix it forever, well, give me 6 months of your time. I'll give you the best golf swing of your life. Check out my Kiwi Coach 6-month program down below. Make sure to sign up for the membership while you're there as well, because it really supports this channel. Then share this video to your friends, like, comment, subscribe, share, and I'll see you guys in the next video.